Hello, and what is up, guys? It's me, Enrique, and I'm just here with a brief intro that today's episodes has a little audio issues. I accidentally chose the wrong audio, and yeah, that might reduce the quality, but it's still a really good episode, so yeah, enjoy.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Behind the Arc podcast. I'm Josh, and I'm joined here today by Enrique, and we're here to talk about some of the biggest draft busts in the latter half of the 2010s, as well as just get into some things that have been going on around the NBA. So it's going to be probably a shorter episode today, but we just thought we'd get y'all one out today, and why don't we get started?
Heck
So
yeah.
the year we're starting with is 2015 for the draft busts, and we just thought we would go over some of the two of the biggest draft busts, the two draft busts that we think are the biggest
The
draft busts in
two,
each draft.
the two icons.
Yes, exactly. With 2018 and 2019, since those drafts are still very recent, we think those players still have a pretty good chance to develop. So we are calling those. We wouldn't really want to call those guys busts right now, as much as we would want to call them guys who right now are on a career trajectory of a bust.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that guys like that don't have an opportunity. And even the guys that are earlier on from the 2015, 2016, 2017 drafts, those guys can still turn it around. But to this point in their career, they are considered busts for sure. So starting with 2015, we have Emmanuel Mudiay, who for his career has averaged 11.1 points per game, 3 rebounds per game with 3.9 assists per game, as well as zero point 0.7 steals per game, and over his career has negative 0.1 win shares.
Yeah, Manu Mudiay, I mean, he started his career with the Nuggets. I think his first season, he was actually not that bad. He showed some promise, but then everyone started to realize, like, once the NBA started changing, with the 3-point shooting and stuff, Manu Mudiay couldn't, like, fit in, so
He didn't go to college. He
yeah.
went overseas after
He snubbed
high
my
school.
team, SMU.
Yeah, he went overseas after high school to play basketball for a year, and then I think he was the fourth overall pick.
No, not
And
fourth. He was
third,
seventh. I think it was seventh.
seventh.
Okay, so it was
Lions. Jeez.
players that were drafted over him. We got Clay. Oh, I almost said Clay. Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Jaleel Okafor, Kristaps, Mario, and then Willie Cauley-Stein,
Okay. Yes.
who
Okay.
could be considered a draft bust as well.
To a certain extent, yeah. But Emmanuel Mudiay, these stats aren't like the worst that we'll see on this list, but at
many
the same
guys
time,
are
he
the
really
same.
hasn't. He's never done much to prove himself as, I guess, a winning basketball player in the league. He's not a very good 3-point shooter, so he doesn't really fit with the way that the NBA is trending. He never really seemed like he polished his game to the point that he likely could have if he had stayed in college and got developed more. And he's gotten to the NBA, and he still at moments looks kind of overwhelmed and just kind of limited at the NBA level. And
Yeah, with the Knicks, he was actually not that bad. He averaged like 14.8 points. Started showing signs of growth. He's actually started like shooting threes kind of well. But then he actually got to a winning team like the Jazz, who actually gave him an opportunity to display his potential. And yeah, that's
just
not working.
not much
Jordan
production
Clarkson has been
in
so
college.
much better than Emmanuel
Yep.
Mudiay has. Also, Emmanuel Mudiay snubbed my team SMU, who at the time had a golden age of players. You got Shake Milton, who's actually doing pretty well with the 76ers. Then you got Sterling Brown, who's not doing that bad with the Bucks. And then the best player, Shemi Ojale, well, in college. He's been struggling to find some minutes, but I think he's pretty good. But yeah, like that team could have won a national championship. I'm,
Yep. And Emmanuel Mudiay, he's a quality player. It's not taking anything away from him. But he's going to be a bench player.
bench
Like
player
at this
bust.
projection.
Yeah.
And as the 7th overall pick, you
A quality
generally
point
want a
guard.
little bit more out of especially drafted at a point guard.
And especially
want a
when
little bit
Jason
more out
Kidd,
of him.
even when Jason Kidd says this guy's gonna be better than I was, Yeah, he's definitely draft bust. On to
So
the
much
next
for
one.
that. So next guy is Mario Hezonja.
Super Mario
Y'all had to know this. Y'all knew this was coming. Mario Hezonja was the 5th overall pick, drafted right behind guys like Kristaps and Karl Anthony Towns.
over
And
Emmanuel.
yes, and for his career, averages 6.9 points a game, 3.1 rebounds per game with a assist, 1.2 assists, and then 0.7 steals and 2.8 win shares.
Yeah,
And
he's not
every
so
year,
super.
Mario gets a new opportunity. It seems like, and we're like, is this the year Mario Hezonja figures it out?
No.
Can we at this point just say, I don't think Mario Hezonja is going to figure it out?
I think his game's more fit for the European leagues, in my opinion.
He's not. He's a good athlete. He dunks some. He's a good athlete.
He's good against
And
LeBron James. We all
yes,
saw
he
that.
had that. He had that highlight that nobody will ever forget. But I don't know. I mean, I guess he's a good player. I don't want to take anything away from him, but he's never figured it out. And we've been waiting for years for Arizona to figure it out, and he's just never proven himself to be even a consistently quality role player. And every team he's on, and
Every
the
time he's on,
fans
he's
of
just
that team,
bad.
every time he goes on the court, it's just people groan. Like they just don't want Mario Hezonja playing for your team. He's just not a.
Again, this was another
For
guy.
lack of a better word, he's not a good player.
Yeah,
Sorry.
this was another guy with the Knicks who we also thought could turn into a pretty good player because of he actually had a pretty. I mean, he wasn't that good with the Knicks.
Well, because he's athletic, so he gets highlights.
Yeah,
and
he
when
gets
players
highlights.
Get highlights, they get hyped.
I mean, that's why he got drafted.
Yeah, exactly. Highlights. When you are an athletic guy who gets dunks, you get big blocks on LeBron James, for example, that put your name in the news for weeks. Stuff like that. I mean, you do things like that, and you get hyped up.
Yeah.
And sometimes those players are not worth the hype.
Sometimes they are. I mean, you got obviously Zion.
Yes, sometimes they are. That is true.
All right. So in a nutshell, Super Mario ain't so super.
Yeah, I would agree. And I don't think he will be. Sadly,
he's more of a Mario for hire. So
yeah.
All right. So yeah, those are our. What should we call this? Our tragic duo.
I mean, yeah, pretty much tragedy. You go to the Knicks, you fail. Which kind of is a theme that you might see down this list a little.
If you end up on the Knicks, you have failed. Like
it's
not
good.
Not getting drafted by them, but like signing for them or getting traded over there. Yeah, you've died.
It's not good. Okay, so now moving on to 2016, we have the number 4 pick, the legend, Dragan Bender, averaging 5.2 points a game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 1.2 assists, 0.6 blocks, and 0.2 win shares over his career.
So yeah, I've been keeping track of Dragan Bender. I believe that the Suns really stunted his growth. So once he went with the Bucks, I was kind of worried about the potential for Dragan Bender becoming the player he's supposed to be. I mean, Dragan Bender, he was a guy. He was 7'1", and he showed athleticism. He showed signs of shooting like really well. He also could rebound pretty well. But
he was compared to guys like Dirk. He was compared to guys like
Kristaps. Yeah,
Kristaps had a great rookie year, and he was the unicorn, and that was huge. And it was because he was in New York playing so well. It got a lot of publicity. And Dragan Bender was a guy who was like, he's tall like Kristaps, he's athletic like Kristaps, he can shoot like Kristaps. We got another European unicorn coming in, and he just
sucks.
Playing for the Suns hurt. He was in a system with a ton of bad players. I mean, the only quality player on the Suns at that time was Devin Booker.
Yeah, like at least
sort of.
At least the Knicks had Carmelo
and Eric Bledsoe
and some good veterans. That's some veterans to kind of help Kristaps.
Right.
Kind of.
I mean, they did have Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah.
At one point, yeah. I don't think his rookie season, but his second season.
His sophomore year, yeah.
Yeah.
But and then you also have the thing was with the Suns, they only had Devin Booker and Eric Bledsoe pretty much, and they didn't have any sort of depth. It just wasn't
All
a
young
well-coached
players.
team. The front office has always been a mess.
And the
A
coach at
mess
the
in
time,
sons.
who was the coach? It was I think it was Earl Watson.
Oh
Like
my
that guy was,
gosh, there were a lot of odd coaches for the Suns.
yeah, like Igor Kokoskov. I
Seriously.
he wasn't
And
given
now
enough.
with Monty Williams, they have found a coach who's actually the head coach
Yeah,
that
too
they can
bad
actually
Dragon did not get
at least
to have him.
attempt to build a culture, build a culture around.
Yeah, but yeah, Earl Watson, the guy is like 40 years old.
He was just like
how was he gonna help
5 to
Dragon?
7 years out of the NBA.
Yeah, but
We saw
yeah,
it with Jason Kidd. It didn't work with Giannis.
but yeah, I think I even oh yeah, in the G League, Dragon actually played pretty well this season. So I think the potential's still there, but at this moment, he's a bust.
Yeah, and he was limited by the Sun system. He very
Yeah,
much was. His growth was very stunted. And
so
we also don't really if his game would how his game would have translated
yeah,
in a better system. But I don't know. It's almost a Darko Milicic type of situation to a certain extent.
kind of yeah.
Um, Another guy we have on this list is Marquise Chris. In the 2016 draft to the Suns. Another Suns player. The two Suns lottery picks in this draft. Their careers just almost never got off the ground. And Marquise Chris has been lucky. And that's what it is. He's been lucky to go to a really bad team this year because he's gotten an opportunity to play legitimate minutes and be able to grow under a quality head coach, even though the team around them really sucks. And he's had moments where he's played well. I'm not saying he's a future star or anything close to it, but he's at least a
You already
quality
know
player at
one fan
times.
base already hates him, and that's our fan base.
Yes, we're not a big fan of Marquise Chris. He's
Screw him.
dirty player? Question mark.
Dirty player. He also played with the Rockets, and we automatically usually hate Rockets players.
But
usually.
for his career, he's averaged 7.8 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 1 assist, 0.8 blocks, and has 5.1 win shares, which is not bad compared to pretty much everybody else on this list.
Yeah.
So that's kind of impressive, to be honest.
I think it's the highest in this whole list.
It is, yes. But I will say,
maybe
he's still young. I think he's only 22 or 23 right now.
Yeah.
He's got a chance to continue to develop into a quality player. Who knows? He might turn into a quality rim rolling athletic big who maybe can contribute to a good team. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. But we don't know. we
20,
just don't know.
Moving on to 2017, we have Josh Jackson, who was the 4th pick in 2017.
You know, wait, before you start 2017, you know, I've just noticed 2015, Emmanuel Mudiay, Mario Hezonja played on the same team at one point. Dragan Bender, Marquise Chris played on the same team at one point. Yep. Dragan Bender, I think, is on a 10-day contract with the Warriors. I don't know if he re-signed, but yeah. I think it was a 10-day contract. I'm not sure.
And they were both drafted by the Suns. So, Knicks and Suns are not
I just realized
are not
that.
Franchises that
Oh yeah, they played with the Suns together. I'm dumb.
They were drafted together on the Suns. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the reunion of busts. I just realized that. Dude,
it's just
okay. If your team wants to tank, you should get this insane duo, Dragan Bender and Marquise Chris. It will significantly help your odds of getting the first pick.
Oh, for sure.
I'm pretty sure. I think it was. I think 2 years with these guys, the Suns secured a first pick and got DeAndre Ayton. So, it's a good duo. I think the Warriors are taking their chances with this duo.
They want that number 1 pick so they can scoop up the center of the future.
Yeah,
James Wiseman.
Hey, but we said it here first. If they get the first pick, it's because of Dragan Bender and Marquise Chris.
That is the answer.
Oh, that's fine.
No, but going back to Josh Jackson, he was picked right behind guys like Lonzo Ball and Jason Tatum, and even Markelle Fultz coming up pretty strongly. Magic. You got other quality players in that draft. Josh Jackson, he was picked right behind guys like Jason Tatum, who's becoming a star, Lonzo Ball and Markelle Fultz, who have both shown big strides of improvement this year and are turning into really quality players and are already elite defensive players as well. You've got guys like Donovan Mitchell, who has turned into a franchise player. Kyle Kuzma, who's contributing in a solid way to a championship contender in the Lakers, and honestly is probably their third option in most games. And at 4, the Grizzlies picked Josh Jackson, who coming out of college we thought
Suns.
was going to be able to develop into a really three-point shooter, great athlete. The hope was that he would be able to develop into a two-way player like Jason Tatum has. And
No.
yeah, he hasn't. He 12
Simple
points a
no.
game, 4.4 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1 steal, 0.6 blocks per game, and negative 2.3 win shares.
I think that's the worst on this list.
That's bad. That's really bad. And yeah, he's averaged 12 points a game, but he hasn't done it efficiently. He's a
Not
under
contribute to
30%
any
three-point
wins.
shooter. He only shoots like 30-something% from the field.
3-point. I think his field percentage isn't terrible, but your point's
It's
still
been
valid.
bad at times.
For a guy who relies on his game, his game
And he's not a good
relies
defender.
on the inside, like in the paint. Yeah, it's bad.
And there were hopes that he'd become a really good defender, and he has not become a good defender. And there have been work ethic issues. There have been problems. He spent a good portion, like half of the season in the G League almost. It's kind of a mess. And you hope that he's in a situation at this point with the Grizzlies, not with the
Yeah, the Grizzlies.
Yes, with the Grizzlies. My brain is really struggling. I don't know. But he's in a position, hopefully now with the Grizzlies, where he can grow and develop into a quality player. And we'll see what happens. He still has potential. He's still young. A lot of these guys on this list are still young. Josh Jackson's 22. His career is not over.
Yeah, in the G League again, like the Dragon Bender, he's actually not been bad in the G League. I think he was shooting 40% from 3, so I don't know what it is. Maybe he comes back. Maybe he becomes a good defender. Maybe he becomes a good shooter. I don't know. But
if he ups his work ethic, he has the physical tools to be able to do so.
Yeah.
So
I think the only players that I think are lost are Moutier and Hazonia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, moving on.
Next player on this list is Dennis Smith Jr., who for his career has averaged 12.5 points a game, 3.2 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.1 steals, but has negative 1.6 win shares in big minutes. And the thing is, Dennis Smith Jr., his rookie year, his percentages weren't great. The Mavericks weren't a good team, but he showed promise. He was consistently solid. He had moments. He showed flashes of absolute incredible athleticism, and just being able to harness that in moments and be a really quality finisher. When his 3-point shot was going down, he was hard to guard offensively. And going into his second year, there was a lot of hope that he and Luka would be able to grow together. And then he started off his second year really effectively and was playing really well, and then got into seemed like spats at the coaching staff and kind of lost interest. And then he got traded to the Knicks, and it's just been a mess. And Dennis Smith Jr. has really fallen off a cliff, and it's been a bad year for him.
Yeah,
and
with the Mavs, I mean, we saw this sense of improvement. I think, his first season, he showed so much potential. I mean, he averaged 15 points, steal per game, 5.2 assists. I mean, he did have pretty bad shooting, but I mean, the potential was still there. Then Luka comes along. Then his percentages go up for basically every category except free throw. I'm pretty sure. No, actually, his free throw technically improved by like 0.01 or 0.001. But yeah, then he got to the Knicks and everything just went down to crap. But I still have this sense of hope for Dennis Smith because with the Mavs, I really feel like they were improving like his overall game. I think they were trying to make him a true point guard, but now he is. I just feel bad for him. I feel so sorry for him.
I think a lot of people feel sorry for him, to be honest.
We see him in high school. He's just. We all thought he was like the next coming of like Russell Westbrook, maybe even better.
And he looked like it. It was.
Yeah. It's just sad.
Pretty incredible.
But yeah.
And another theme, 2017, Josh Jackson drafted by the Suns. Dennis Smith Jr. goes to the Knicks and his career falls apart.
It seems like when you go to the Knicks,
the Suns and the Knicks are just not. It's a consistent theme.
Well, I
Bad
think
coaching,
yeah,
bad front offices, poor teammates around, not good depth, bad systems that stunt players' growth. It's consistent, and it's a theme that you really do see. And those things might be starting to change. Who knows? And we haven't really seen it change much with the Knicks so far. But hopefully, there's going to be able to be a culture change there now that they've replaced Steve Mills. Gah. Now that they've replaced Steve Mills, and maybe Leon Rose is able to start building a different culture there in the front office. And
it's gonna be a near
depending on who they
impossible
hire as
feat.
a new coach, if they keep Mike Miller, maybe they get some draft luck and can pick up
They
a really
need to
quality
keep Michael
player.
Miller. Michael Miller's a really good coach. If they
I
get rid of,
think Mike Miller's a really solid coach.
I think he's
Guy
really
who
good
I
at
don't think
developing
he's
guys. At least at
I don't know if
developing.
he's an elite coach, but I think he's a solid. And I think he actually has which is something you would not have said when he was installed as the interim.
Yeah, but yeah.
Um,
So to move on, we get our next guy.
but moving on to 2018, we have I wonder if y'all can guess what team this guy's on. Kevin Knox. Shocking, another Knicks player, right? 10.1 points per game, 3.7 rebounds per game, 1 assist, 0.3 blocks, and negative 1.2 win shares on his career. Guy who was an elite player in high school, an elite player in college. Looked like the whole package. Jason Tatum type of player. Goes to the summer league his rookie year and tears it up.
He was insane.
We really thought Kevin Knox was. I'm sorry. I will be completely honest. I didn't buy into the hype for pretty much anybody else on this list. Maybe Dennis Smith to an extent. Kevin Knox, I was all in. Kevin Knox was going to be a stud. I knew it too. Guaranteed. He was just Paul George, Jason Tatum type of athlete, player, quality offensive player, has the athletic ability and the tangible, the numbers, the measurables to become a quality defender.
Some college success as well.
Exactly. He just looked like the whole package. A guy who really looked like he could be a really quality player for the Knicks and contribute to bringing them out of this hole they've been in for so long. And he was decent last year, I guess. This year he's been bad. No, there's no other way to put it. He's been really bad this year.
He's been just as bad as Justin Jackson. Like
it's been really bad. He's been one of the worst players. And I think I'm safe in saying that.
Which is tragic because again, it's just this repetition of the Knicks.
Thing to remember with guys like this though is he's 21 years old. He's got time to turn it around. That's why we don't want to say that he's a bust right now, guaranteed, because he's still young. And that is a theme with a lot of these guys, is that they are still young. And
he just has to hope that
he probably needs a new home. He needs a new home, and he needs a team that will let him develop and has good veterans that will help coach him and help him turn into a quality player, because his career isn't over. He doesn't look like he has any confidence. He doesn't play smart. There are a lot of issues right now. And
many Mavs fans will disagree with me, but I've thought about it a lot. I don't know why, but I feel like if Kevin Knox was on the Mavs, I mean, I think he'd be so good. I don't know. It's just a feeling. I feel like if we just trade away Justin Jackson, who's terrible, bring in Kevin Knox, maybe we can fix it.
I would like Kevin Knox, I'll be honest. That's true.
Yeah, I would like him. I don't know why. I know he's really bad, but it's just a feeling. I have a feeling that he would be so successful with the Mavs. But yeah, so in a nutshell, Kevin Knox, terrible. But again, just this. But
you have the many Jason Tatum question marks.
Yeah.
That's the type of player
it's the Knicks. The Knicks.
I don't know. It just is. It's the Knicks. It's really not that complicated. You're right.
Yeah. Luckily, this is the last. It's because of the Knicks, guys. Yes. So
finally.
Thank God.
Now we get to some other guys who, whether it be lack of opportunity or maybe they're just not that quality of players. I'm not sure, but these guys, they have a chance to turn it around as well, but it hasn't looked good so far for these guys. Jerome Robinson is one of those guys. And say what you will about Jerome Robinson and the lack of minutes that he's played, which is definitely true. I mean, he hasn't gotten a lot of minutes at times.
But he hasn't done anything. Like year,
even in the minutes he doesn't play.
Dude, last year the Clippers were expected to be like one of the worst teams in the NBA, kind of like what the Thunder are today. Or like, I mean, like the Thunder were supposed to be really bad as well, but then they actually became God mode. But yeah, Jerome Robinson like immediately was inserted to G League, which was an automatic red flag that this guy was probably not going to be as good as we thought. But again, coming out of college, he came from Boston College. I think he was known for
just
his
a very solid all-around player in college.
yeah.
He was a good shooter.
Yeah, really good shooter. I think he was pretty good on defense as well.
And that's the thing, he really has not been a good shooter at all in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's not a very good three-point shooter.
But yeah, so from what I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I believe Jerry West allowed Doc Rivers to select the player he thought would be good. Jerry West selected Shai, I'm pretty sure, and then Doc selected Jerome. So,
well, thank you, Jerry West, for giving us Shai Gilgeous. You traded Paul George and 5 first round picks. Nice, good job. That's gonna go down in history as not one of the better trades.
Well, the reason why that trade isn't as bad as you think is because it landed the Clippers Kawhi Leonard. So if they didn't do that trade,
and if they win a championship, it's worth it no matter what.
Yeah, but if they don't win one, it's gonna look very bad. But yeah, coming back on topic, I mean, Jerome Robinson only lasted 1.5 years with the Clippers, got traded to the Wizards. Recently, he showed some signs of being clutch. I think he had like the last 5 points for the Wizards and won them the game.
Was that 2 days ago?
I don't remember. From the time of this recording.
Yeah, it was a couple of days ago from the time of this recording. He played really well in the fourth quarter and came up clutch and actually won them a game, which for the Wizards doesn't.
Which is why he probably has 0 win shares.
Yeah, but for the most part so far in his career, when he's on the court, he really doesn't seem like he contributes that much offensively or defensively. And you just need players to contribute more sometimes, especially when they're lottery picks. And so at this point, so far, he was projecting as a bust.
Yeah.
Moving on to this year's draft. And obviously, this year's draft, it's still very early.
Yeah, so
it's hard to say.
Yeah, like we said before, it was 2018, 2019. We're just projecting guys who are probably destined to be busts. But yeah, continue.
But with this draft, we have some guys who obviously, I mean, it's still very young in their career. It's not like they have to right now turn into elite basketball players. But the first guy we have on this list is Jarrett Culver. As the 6th overall pick, you would have liked to see a bit more this year, especially in the opportunity as a bad Timberwolves team, for him to be more of a contributor. You would like to see him averaging in double figures and being a good defender and competing for like an all-rookie team, that type of thing. And instead, he's putting up 9 points a game, 3.4 1.8 assists, 0.9 steals, 0.7 blocks, negative.
0.7 blocks is pretty good for a guard.
That's the thing. He is a good defender. And he does have potential for sure. But
compared to all the guys, he's
this does not. First of all, this does not look like a whole draft. This does look like a draft with a lot of quality NBA players,
which is surprising because we all thought that this draft was gonna be pretty bad, like very very bad. Like we all thought it was just gonna be Zion and John and
Exactly. RJ maybe like that. Yeah.
But RJ like again like he's actually not been terrible. Like maybe he's the next Kevin Knox. I don't know. But yeah, going back on topic, Jarrett Culver. Luckily, throughout the season, he's actually improved a lot on offense and defense. In the beginning of the season, he was just out. Like he was just terrible.
He was just there. And now Jarrett Culver is definitely at least in a position to contribute. So he is improving, and I wouldn't say he's going to be a bust because we really don't know that at this point.
But he's one of the more likely busts out of all these guys, I think.
Right. And we'll see what happens. He's kind of an older guy. Somebody who's a rookie though. I think he's like 22 or 23.
Yeah.
Because he spent a pretty good amount of time in college. So it's not like he's 19 years old and has tons and tons of time. He still has time, but there are definitely question marks.
Yeah.
At this point.
All right. So next guy, we got Romeo Langford. I've not seen much of him, but I'm pretty sure he was highly regarded as a offensive player, and I think maybe also defense. Was he good on defense?
No, not really, but he was a really good.
So it was just a real I think everyone thought this guy would be a really good offensive player, but he's been just bad. Like, it's bad. Like, it's terrible. So he averaged 2.9 points per game, or he has averaged 2.9 points per game, 1.0 rebounds per game, 0.2 assists, 0.3 steals per game, and 0.3 win shares, which I don't know how, but he has 0.3 win shares.
And how many games has he played in the NBA? Like 20 something?
21.
Yeah. He's only played in 21 games. He's been in the G League. He's there.
Let me look at his G League stats real quick.
He's very much just on the court. He's not really contributing in any meaningful way when he's playing.
All right, let's look at...
I don't think so.
Okay, Romeo Langford. We got a guy who is awful. He is awful. This guy might be the worst bust of all these guys. Like, he's just... the
Celtics. By the way, the Celtics traded Matisse Thybulle for
yeah, which makes it worse.
And a second-round pick.
It's not like Cameron Payne where, like, the Thunder knew, like, he was going to hit or miss. And he's kind of, like, late in the lottery. And I don't think the Thunder were in, like, a very desperate situation. But this guy, like, the Celtics are trying to find a guy who can, like, play really good offensively. But he has not done anything. So in the G League, he's only played 7 games, which is very little. But he's only averaged 11 points. He has 43 field goal percentage, and his 3-point percentage is only 22.
He's just not good at anything.
Maybe free throws. He averages 80% from free throws. Oh, he can block, though. He averages 1.4 blocks. Maybe yeah.
Maybe he's just an oddball.
Maybe he's like, if you go to our rebuild series on YouTube, he might be the next Mie Oni. So
who knows? Maybe. Mie Oni, he can help Dante Cunningham win a championship.
Might get really bad stats, but he will contribute to winning no matter what.
Yes, indeed.
But
all right, well,
jokes aside, Romeo Langford's terrible.
He's been really bad.
Yeah.
Something we can say so far, though, is this list, you got a lot of Knicks players, a lot of Suns players. Organizational dysfunction seems to contribute to making busts, is something we can definitely say.
Yeah.
Because not very many of these busts were on very good teams.
The only one, projected bust would be Jerome Robinson.
And Romeo Langford's on a good team, but...
Yeah.
He's just, I don't know. I don't know.
Work in progress. You never know.
Yeah.
Devontae Graham, we all thought he was going to be terrible. I mean,
he's regressed really bad. He's back to shooting horrible percentages.
Oh, really? Oh, dang.
Yes.
Oh, well.
He's shooting like 30-something% in the field. And 37% for three.
Maybe he's the next Kristaps, or just like, oh, wait.
No, but Kristaps is shooting really well. That's
like Knicks fans told us, oh, wait till January, and he will become really bad. I'm just like,
he's gotten better and better.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. It's just because the Knicks suck. Just accept it, Knicks fans.
Fair enough. So we thought we'd talk about some current news for a bit.
Yeah, this should be
first
really
thing we want to
brief.
mention was Bradley Beal again. We did talk about him in the podcast earlier this week. But he is now the 4th player in NBA history points in 7 consecutive games. That's really impressive. And the Wizards are, I believe, are they 2-5 in their last 7 games?
I don't remember, but it's tragic.
I think they're 2-5 in their last 7 games. Basically, doing this, he's scoring at a historically.
It's
like just a horrible team.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what else to say. It's just,
and I mean, we talked about it on Wednesday, and not Wednesday. I'm sorry, Monday, and we were talking about how Bradley Beal, after he dropped those 50-point games and lost both of those games, we're just wondering how long does he want to do this? And John Wall's return next year is very important.
This is really
it's going to be crucial to see what happens.
This is really testing like loyalty to a team. Like this is one of the bigger tests I've seen like for an NBA player like in NBA history. This is like probably worse than Dirk. I'm being serious.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, because at least Dirk won games consistently, was in the playoffs, but Bradley Beal like he drops like 30 points per game and like is struggling to like even find the 8 seed. So yeah, I think those other 4 players three players, sorry, were Allen Iverson, Wilt Chamberlain, and Walt Thurmond, which is a pretty elite group.
Company. Yep.
But yeah,
so
we just had to throw that out there.
We just thought that was an interesting stat. Thought that might be worth mentioning. Just remind you all of how amazing Bradley Beal is and how bad his team is. The next thing we wanted to mention real quickly is we're just kind of wondering, watching Malik Beasley since he's been traded to the Timberwolves. Is he the type of player who can be a third option on a quality team? Because he's 23 years old. Since he went to the Timberwolves, he's averaging 21 points a game. He's shooting efficiently. He looks like a quality scorer. And now that Karl Anthony Towns out indefinitely, it's him and D'Angelo Russell. And he's been really, really good. I mean, he's been better for the Timberwolves than Wiggins was so far anyway. And you kind of wonder, now that he has this opportunity, because for years he's been a trendy guy that people like around the NBA. Because when he was on the Nuggets, as a quality defender, quality 3-point shooter, a guy who could score when needed to score. And now that he's in more of a lead guard role where he's contributing a lot more to the scoring, he's been really effective.
Yeah.
And the wonder is when Karl Anthony Towns comes back, is he a guy who next season can be a third option for a Timberwolves team that tries to compete for the playoffs? If Jarrett Culver can develop, and they can get developed from a couple other guys and have some guys just turn into quality bench pieces and quality role players who can play solid minutes and will contribute to a good team, can Malik Beasley be the type of guy who can be the third option on a team that's trying to be in the playoffs? And yes, the West is going to be really strong. There's a lot of talent in the NBA. But it'll be interesting to see if now that he has this opportunity, if he can continue to put up numbers like this and contribute.
Yeah, the fact that he's putting up 41% from three on 9.5 3-pointers attempted is insane.
Impressive.
If he can keep that up, he is easily a top 5 3-point shooter. Easily.
That's very, very efficient and very high volume.
Yeah. And like you said, he's actually been better than Andrew Wiggins. I don't know how, but the Timberwolves literally traded Andrew Wiggins, then got a guy who's better than Wiggins, or two guys who are better than Wiggins, and D'Lo and Malik Beasley. Plus, they added a first-round pick, got rid of Gorgie Dang's contract, took in Evan Fournier, or not Evan Fournier, Evan Turner's, which expires next year. And
it actually looks like a solid trade for them.
And they brought in James Johnson, who we all thought was just a throw-in, but he's actually been really good for them. And he's been a very good veteran for them.
James Johnson was good on the Heat too. He just didn't play much. When he played, he was good.
The Timberwolves literally finessed everyone.
That's a good trade for them. They got D'Angelo Russell, they got Malik Beasley,
they got a pick and got an extra pick.
Yeah, and they got
Juancho Johnson, who's a quality player,
and some cap relief.
Yeah, a lot of cap relief. They don't have to pay.
Because Andrew Wiggins' contract is not a very good contract.
Yeah.
Even if he plays well as a fifth option on the Warriors, which next year, or fourth option, I'm sorry. But I don't know. One other thing I wanted to mention, moving on, is the emergence of third option type players for the Mavericks. It's interesting to see because it seems like every single game the Mavericks play, somebody steps up, whether it be Tim Hardaway Jr. dropping in 25 points, or last night Seth Curry dropping 37.
Some of this recording, yeah.
Last night, at the time of this recording, when the Mavs played the Heat, Seth Curry dropped 37, and we didn't win, but it was a quality game, and Seth Curry played really well and picked up the slack for Luka and Kristaps to a certain extent. And I mean, Dorian Finney-Smith there again, he'll drop 20, and he's a really good defender and gets rebounds really effectively. Maxi Kleber last week had a 27-point game in a win.
Oh yeah, that was really
over the Magic. And it just seems like every night there's a player for the Mavericks who steps up and plays like a really good third option. And I wouldn't say there is a third option on the Mavericks. I mean, I would say Tim Hardaway Jr. is generally the third option, but it seems like every night there's a guy who is able to step up and fill that role. In the playoffs, that could be really, really helpful if the Mavs are trying to win a playoff series and be a competitive team and just at least put a scare into a team. It'll be interesting to see if that can continue, because there will be nights where Luka and Kristaps aren't on. And it's going to be important for there to be one or two guys who are able to step up and continue to be competitive. Because even though Luka and Kristaps weren't on last night, the Mavericks still had a good chance to win that game against a good Heat team. And a motivated Heat team that's not been winning very well recently and went and played really hard last night. And even though they lost that game, just being able to see things like that consistently when our best players aren't on, and even when Luka and Kristaps don't play, we're still a competitive team. We have guys who can step up and contribute, and that's going to be really important going down the stretch.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Now, I think this team, like, I know the third options are really good for the Mavs. Like, it's actually, like, insane. They've kept us from, like, getting blown out. Like, if we didn't have Seth Curry, we'd have gotten blown out. Like,
Seth Curry had an amazing game last night. And that's one of probably 7 or 8 elite games he's had this year where Seth Curry's come in and dropped.
But the thing the Mavs need, they need more defense. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist needs to step up. Like, if
he's not getting minutes yet.
Yeah. Once he gets adjusted to the offense, like, maybe in the end of the season, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist maybe gets a ton of time in the playoffs, and he can definitely show that, like, hey, this team can be really effective. But
it'll be nice to see if Willie Cauley-Stein once he gets back from whatever personal issues he's dealing with. Having him as a guy who can be a rim protector and a rebounder and a good finisher inside is, I mean, he was nice in spurts for the Mavs so far in the minutes he's played for us. So, yeah. And one other thing I did want to mention, not on the script, but Steph Curry returns.
And you know, against who? Against the Wizards, because the Wizards are the most unlucky team in NBA history.
But he gets kind of a gimme to a certain extent. He's not going to be playing against very good defensive players.
Yeah, he's gonna go.
It'll be interesting to see how he plays, because, I mean, who knows? Maybe Steph comes in and drops 35 a game for the next 2 months. I doubt it.
Just like in the next rebuild.
It'll be fun to see. It'll be fun to see if he's able to lead the Warriors to some wins, basically, as they're so bad, or if he even tries to lead, honestly, because at the point they're so committed to tanking. I don't know, but it'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of NBA fans are looking for that, because we've been wondering for a while if he's kind of faking the injury, over exaggerating, that type of thing.
I think it was just an over exaggeration.
Now that he's finally back, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, all right.
I think interesting is a good word for it, but cool. So this is gonna wrap up another episode of the Behind the Arc podcast. Please make sure to like this video and leave us a comment on the YouTube channel. Follow our podcast on Spotify, and share it on all of the other social media platforms that y'all find us on. And we'll be back at you next week with another episode. Thanks very much, and y'all have a great day.